Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with some more Cool Tune post-ban list this time. So, no Naturia Rose Whip, although I've never played the card in this deck before anyway. And also we are only on one copy of Synchro Overtake. As a compensation for that, we're running a couple of copies of Duelist Genesis. I'll show you the list here at the end of the video. We're going to be going second against Live Twin here, and we're actually going to be going second for all of the duels in this video. So, you'll notice I'm saving my Ash Blossom for my opponent's Live Twin Kewl, but I'm also going to throw out these Fuwaloses even though I negated it. For a couple of reasons. One, I don't want to Ash Blossom my opponent too early on something like, you know, Engraver or the Sunny Snitch when they could represent full combo. And two, even if the Ash Blossom negates the Kewl, then I can still use the Fuwalos when they link into the Link 1, Kewl, Evil Twin, or of course, they also have that tract in their hand that they searched off of Engraver, so they could use that with Lurie to go into other plays as well. Finding Jewel and Lockbird is actually not helpful at all here, because it's useless against Evil/Live Twin, and of course I want to keep drawing cards off of my own Fuwalos. My opponent just deciding to take the Fuwalos challenge here. They're going to go for the Kewl Evil Twin, use it to revive Leela's Sweet, and then link off into Evil Twin Leela. Of course, we get to keep drawing cards for this. Second Rotary, of course, isn't really needed, but the rest of our hand is looking really good. I actually would like to find another hand trap to kind of stop what my opponent is doing here. Because, while, yeah, I do have all these Fuwalos draws, at the end of the day, you know, I still have to push through the board they set up, and I mean, to be fair, I have probably more than enough to do that right now. Rotary plus Q plus Cool Tune Synchro. Alright, so here's the Fiendsmith's Requiem. Like I said, they're just going to play right through this. Here's Cool Tune Clip as well. So I could use Clip plus Q in order to make the, what do you call it, the Track Maker, but I don't think that's very strong here. I'd rather save the Q for a normal summon. Now, Clip plus Reco is going to be another whole other issue. And I'm actually going to Synchro Summon for that right now, because that represents another negate going into my opponent's turn. And of course, we can still just normal summon Q and go full combo. And we get to incidentally pop the Sunny Snitch, which doesn't really matter, but not having my opponent gain so many life points won't be so bad. Okay, so he ripped a Jin Buster, which funnily enough, they're not even on a Sprite build. I guess 2 Leelas is how they're planning to make that. But they're going to go for the Engraver. And this was actually a really good play on their part, using the Engraver plus Requiem in order to force the RS. But you'll note that I didn't use RS to negate the Engraver. I'm going to let it get sent. But I negated the Sequence instead. That way I forced them to use the Tract in their graveyard to fuse. And then when they go to use Fiendsmith's Lacrima, I can just hit that with the Effect Veiler. So as you can see, I've actually put my opponent in a really precarious position because now they're not going to be able to set up Caesar, and I still have 6 cards in hand. If they want to set up anything after this, they're going to need to give me at least one more draw, and even then they're only going to have whatever they summon plus 2 cards left to my 7 cards. Yeah, I think in terms of hand trap usage, when it comes to the Ash Blossom early on, or the Veiler here, slash the RS negate, there were a lot of different ways, like scenarios you could have used those, but I think we did it pretty optimally here, not to shoot my own horn too much. And Ghost Spell is actually like the best possible top deck here, because I can simply use the Ghost Spell against the Trouble Sunny effect. And now my opponent truly has nothing. They have 2 cards left in their hand to my 6. Yeah, they're going to set 2. They do get the Magnum Hut Search for Druid Swarm during the end phase, but that's not really gonna honestly matter that much at all here. Alright, we're gonna lead with Rotary Effect, revealing Q. They're gonna go for the Lacrima effect on the Requiem in the graveyard. I'm gonna chain Called By here, because I know the last card in hand is Druid Swarm and not like a hand trap. So I can just use the Call By against the Fiendsmith's Requiem here. Not have to worry about them possibly having like Fiendsmith in Paradise or something. Alright, here's Cool Tune Q. They're going to chain Druid Swarm. They're going to banish the RS out of my graveyard. This is totally fine, by the way. I don't care at all. Of course, we do have to be mindful of the Druid Swarm. If we send it, it's going to get to send one of our things to the graveyard. So I want to try to, obviously, banish or bounce it here if possible. And that won't be a problem thanks to Cool Tune Trackmaker. We're going to go Trackmaker F as well as Q. And we'll even throw Rotary at the end. We don't get to search with Rotary because our opponent doesn't have any cards in hand for us to look at. So we'll put back their Leela Suite instead. Gonna banish Rebellion, leave their Santa Claus on top. And then we're gonna add JJ Cool Tune. JJ Cool Tune letting me extra normal summon the Mix. I'm gonna use Mix to add Q. And then basically at this point I'm going to Synchro Climb up into the back-to-back. We're going to make Zaylin first. Now I can use Trackmaker effect to bounce the Druiswarm. And then we're going to go Rekko plus Zaylin, as mentioned, into the back-to-back. Now, Rekko gets to pop one of my opponent's face-down cards, which is just being a Cashier Birth. I guess they're on the Cashier package as well. And I really just need one more solid body in order to be able to OTK here, and the Remix is more than enough. Moving to battle phase, I can attack with both of these monsters twice, which again, is more than enough damage for lethal. So yeah, there we go. I mean, of course, the Fuwalos definitely helped us out a lot there. But as mentioned, you know, when it comes to using the Ash Blossom when we did, the Veiler when we did, going for RS when we did, I think that's a really counterintuitive play that a lot of people would have overlooked in the moment, right? Is when our RS was getting targeted by the Engraver, using it to negate the sequence and not the Engraver itself, which that freed up our Veiler to be used later on against the Lacrima. So, yeah, I think that, again, they played into Fuwalos. There's no getting around that, but hand trap usage definitely still mattered here. Anyway, let's take a look at our next duel. Okay, I got a couple of games going up against Hero. This is going to be the first of those. And as mentioned, this is going to be a going second game again. They all are. All right, let's see what we got. We got Veiler, Ash Blossom, Droll, Clip. Obviously really, really good. I would much rather have the Rekko with the Q for a turn 1 Clip, but don't even need it really with a hand like this. We're going to Droll them after they go for the Duskcrow adding Furnace, and then we can simply Ash Blossom the Fusion Destiny. I love opening Droll plus Ash against Hero. There's really not much I can do against that 2-card combo there. They're going to set a card and then pass back over to us. I'm a little weary. It could be Mask Change, which would be pretty bad for us, but obviously we're going to have to just play into it anyway. So we're going to go Rotary, Reveal, Q, Normal Summon Q. They're going to fire off an Ash Blossom against us, but of course we still have the Rotary in hand anyway, so not that big of a deal. We're going to go Clip plus Rotary, sorry, Q plus Rotary into the Trackmaker. And now we can fire off these effects here. Gonna go Chainlink 1 Q, Chainlink 2 Rotary, Chainlink 3 Trackmaker. I actually do prefer to do it in this order, especially if my opponent's already used an Ash Blossom. But even if not, I still think this is the ideal way to set up the Chainlink, because this way you can look at their hand and then the top cards of their deck, giving you more information and knowing what to banish better. Also, still chain blocks the Rotary Search, which is the more valuable one, because again, it lets you look at your opponent's hand. Plus, like, yeah, you're putting Trackmaker at the end, which can get hit with Ash Blossom, but even if your opponent didn't fire off Ash Blossom against you, they would have done it against Q anyway. So I think that this is always the best way to set up the Chainlink, like at least 99% of the time, is Chainlink 1 Q, Chainlink 2 Rotary, Chainlink 3 Trackmaker. Our opponent is going to use Forbidden Droplet against the Trackmaker, but this does not matter to me at all. I don't think there's a world... Well, that's not true. I was going to say, I don't think there's a world where the Droplet stops me from winning the duel. Now, their hand went by pretty quickly, but it was Masked Hero Furnace, which we already knew about, and Mulch Army Meowls, which I don't think I've ever run into Meowls in the wild, so... Our opponent, however, is on it. Revealing the top 2 is going to reveal Malicious and another Meowls. I'm going to banish Malicious and leave the Mulch Army Meowls on top, since our opponent no longer has any cards in the field that can fire off the Meowls here. But I'm pretty sure I can just OTK without giving them any draws here. I guess... Because let's see, I have the JJ Cool Tune, right? Extra Normal Summon Clip, send Clip for Rekko, Normal Summon Rekko, add the Mix. I actually still have my base Normal Summon, because the 2 Normal Summons I've done so far were off of Rotary and JJ Cool Tune. So I can Normal Summon Mix, Mix for Q. I'm basically trying to figure out if I can set up the back-to-back OTK here. I don't know if I can, to be totally honest. I mean, I could set up back-to-back, but I don't know if I could set up an OTK. I mean, it's not going to matter because my opponent's going to concede, like, in, yeah, a second here anyway. But that might have been a little bit of an early concede. I don't know. It's funny, the Meows wasn't even really a factor there in the grand scheme of things. It more just kind of came down to, could I OTK? I'd already used the effective JJ Cool Tune, so if we go normal summon mix, add Q, and then go for... Yeah, if I try to go for back-to-back through Zaylin, then I just end up with the mix plus back-to-back, which is 6,600 damage, which is obviously isn't enough for lethal. I mean, to be fair, even if I didn't finish them off, they would have had, what, Furnace plus Meows. They would have pitched Meows, summoned Furnace, or for Furnace's effect, rather, to either search, what, Mass Change or Polymerization with no other cards. There was nothing they could do anyway, but... Just trying to figure out if I could have OTK'd there. If you see it, definitely let me know in the comments below. Anyway, enough of me yapping. Let's go into the next game. Alright, here's a game against Millennium Exodia. It's going to only be a one-turn replay, but it's going to show off some more turn zero action from Cool Tune via the Cool Tune clip, which we didn't open, but we do have the Mulch Army Fuwalos, and we'll get to draw that here in a second. Now, given that my opponent's on, like, the Millennium Exodia deck, this is only going to be our one draw off the Fuwalos here. But when they fire off the Ankh, you better believe I'm going to go Fuwalos. And thankfully, they don't have a response, so that's going to resolve. Ankh's going to reveal the head of Exodia from the hand, and then the rest of the limbs from the deck, and then here is the unstoppable Exodia Incarnate. This Exodia, however, is going to be extremely stoppable. Here's a Cool Tune clip. As I go to end main phase, we're going to go clip plus mix into Trackmaker. So now we can go Trackmaker, Chainlink 1, mix Chainlink 2, targeting Exodia, and then clip Chainlink 3. And you might be wondering, but Hex, you forgot to read Unstoppable Exodia, right? It cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects, which is true. However, we have the Effect Veiler here as well. So if we just wait until the end of the chain link and put the Effect Veiler there, now it'll be negated by the time it goes to get destroyed. Boom. And now they have nothing. They have literally nothing. And obviously taking a look at our hand of Rotary Q and now JJ Cool Tune searched off of the Trackmaker, it's really easy to see how we can just find lethal in 2 seconds there. Yeah, like I said, very quick replay, but I really like the turn 0 capabilities of this deck. Even if you're not summoning RS on your opponent's turn 1, getting to still use Mix and or Rekko to mess with their combo line is really fun. So, got one last replay. Let's watch that before I show you the deck list here. Alright, here is that last game. As mentioned, it's going to be up against Hero, and also we are going to be going second yet again. Alright, didn't open Fuwalos this time. I know some people complain when I show going second games where I open Fuwalos, but it's like, the card is in my deck. Like, I'm not just going to exclude every replay where it's there. Like, it is a factor in the meta and competitive play, so... but here we have my favorite 2-card combo against Hero, Droll plus Ash Blossom, and on top of that, we get to do yet more turn 0 shenanigans by making an RS. I will say that, like, going into RS off of Clip plus Rekko is actually a little bit hand dependent. Like, for example, if this Cool Tune Synchro were another hand trap, I actually don't think I would have made RS right here, because I would have wanted to normal summon Rekko and make sure I had a combo going into my turn. I think that while having an RS on your opponent's turn 1 is obviously really strong, being able to actually go off and combo an OTK on my turn would be a lot stronger. So yeah, if this Cool Tune Synchro was like another Ash Blossom or a Veiler or something, I would not have necessarily clipped into Rekko into RS right here. I think I would have waited to see if my Ash Blossom could have stopped any follow-up, and then if necessary, I would have considered going into RS for another negate. We ripped Cross Sheep from their extra deck, which I don't see that in a lot of Hero, although I could be mistaken. We're going to Ash Blossom the Ian Shuffle they added off of Miracle Ejector, since that summons from deck. They do have a Fusion Destiny, but it makes me very glad I made the RS here, because I can just banish Ash Blossom and negate that. I feel like every hero player always opens the Fusion Destiny. I always go hand trap against them, and they Fusion Destiny. I hear they're going to tribute the Miracle Ejector for Malicious, banishing the Rekko from my graveyard, setting a card, and then passing. Now I'm a little bit weary of Mask Change, but thankfully our opponent just concedes instead as soon as we go draw phase Cool Tune Synchro. Of course, we want to activate Cool Tune Synchro during the draw phase because of Joel and Lockbird. But again, I don't actually always do that. So if the card we drew for turn was Cool Tune Clip, but if it had been a starter like Q or Rekko, I think I might have actually held off on using the Cool Tune Synchro during the draw phase, and I think I might have saved it for follow-up, right, as an extender. Because let's say that instead of Clip I did draw Q, and I normal summon Q, and now let's say my opponent has an Effect Veiler. Since I held the Cool Tune Synchro, I could chain Cool Tune Synchro to add and then tune, like add Clip or something, or even Rotary, like add a Rotary, tune Rotary with the Q, make Track Maker, and then because Q would no longer be on the field, it would still resolve and summon, like probably in this scenario, a Rekko from my deck. But, yeah, even though stuff like Turn 0 RS and Draw Phase Cool Tune Synchro might seem really obvious, you do still have to look at your hand and the board state and kind of make an assessment as to whether or not it's worth it. I think it's worth thinking about that every time and not blindly firing them off. But anyway, let me show you the deck list now. Okay, so here is my post-ban list Cool Tune deck list. It's actually pretty much exactly the same list I was running before. I just cut 2 Synchro Overtakes for 2 copies of Duelist Genesis, which is a pretty obvious one-to-one replacement, right? The spell card that's good in your deck gets limited, you just add 2 of the spells that can search it out. But of course, Duelist Genesis can also search out Cool Tune Synchro. That said, I think I might end up reworking this list from the ground up anyway, like just deleting this list and starting over from scratch, because there's a lot of considerations when it comes to deck building for Cool Tune, right? Like, I'm on 3 Mix and Clip, but that's definitely not necessary. You could definitely go down on the numbers of these cards. I think I might actually do that, to try to include some more hand traps. How many hand traps am I playing right now? It's quite a bit. It's 3, 5, 6, 7, 10, 13, 16. And if you want to count Clip, that's 19. So 16 to 19. But if I were to like cut maybe a copy of each of these, and maybe even a Duelist Genesis, I could fit in a playset of Imperms. I've kind of been wanting to try Infinite Impermanence in this deck, and going down on like my Cool Tune monsters a little bit and see how much I notice the difference, right? Of course, you could also consider cutting Gamma. It's always attached to the driver, but it's so good. Gamma is so good. I think it's worth it. I think the games where you are able to activate and resolve Gamma, for me anyway, totally outweigh the number of games I open driver. Because like, yeah, opening driver is annoying, but I mean, I very rarely feel like driver in my hand is the deciding factor of whether I win or lose a game, right? That's actually kind of something I've been mentally keeping track of as I play this deck, and I have noticed that the majority of the time, driver in my hand doesn't really affect the outcome. Now, of course, you could always argue that the games I lose, that driver could have been like a hand trap or an extender, and then it is affecting, which obviously, yeah, that is an argument to make, but I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it's worth it. I really do. The games where Gamma resolves are just such blowouts, and I've definitely have noticed games where I win because of Gamma. I think that's really the thing I need to start keeping track of, is games won because of Gamma versus games where I lose and drivers in hand. But I feel like both are relatively minimal, especially the latter. Don't necessarily need a playset of Ghost Spell either, although, I don't know, maybe you actually do, because this card is so good in this meta right now. It's obviously a really good counter against this deck, but also just a lot of other decks that are out there. You could also play Super Poly, that is always an option. How do I feel about that? How do I feel about Super Poly in this deck? I mean, obviously it's really good. I guess you would, I guess in my case, like I talked about taking a mix, a clip, and a duelist genesis for a set of imperms, I could do the same for super polys, in which case I would probably drop Omega, maybe Typhone, maybe Second Loudness War, maybe Omri Terra, some combination of those for your 3 super poly targets. Everything else definitely comes up back-to-back, obviously. I actually kind of want a second one. I haven't had a game where the second one's come up, but I've had a couple of games where I was worried if they answered the back-to-back about what I was going to do without a second one. So I'm actually kind of considering a second one of those. Cool Tune is just, I don't know, it's a deck that for me is more interesting to build than it is to play a lot of the time. Because there's so many different little tech choices that actually end up really, really mattering. It just kind of depends on which of those you want to play into. But yeah, I think going into this ban list, obviously this is still going to be the best deck moving forward. But there are some interesting decisions to make. Now, obviously this deck does still deserve to be hit. Goes without saying. But we'll have to see what happens with that in the future. For now, that's going to do it. Thank you, as always, for watching. Super appreciate your support. This is Hexlex. I'm about to sign out, but before I do, let's move on to our outro so we can thank our YouTube members and Patreon subscribers for their very generous support. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.